Where do I get leads? Where do I get clients as a business coach? That's what we're discussing on this training, all about how to become the hunted. All right. There is a way to do this. I'm going to give you some insights. I'm going to give you some things to consider. Because here's the real deal. All you're ever doing is constantly reaching out. If all you're ever doing is in a sales process, if all you're ever doing is the one who's knocking on the door, figuratively speaking, then you're never putting yourself in the position strategically for those people to contact you. This is not an overnight process. It will be faster for some than others. That is true for some variable reasons, as well as we understand that sales are real, right? With me, sales is what makes the world go round. However, how you position yourself, how you're building relationships is all that matters. And you can build amazing relationships and still be in a sales-minded process, or you could be in a different mindset. And today it's actually a lot quicker than ever before, which I'll explain here in just a few moments. So it first starts with this, your attitude. And I don't care what strategies you use to develop relationships, to build persona. You might do workshops. You might create some really unique, what we call joint venture opportunities. That the list can go on and on. But it's also about your mindset first, because that's going to change how you interact. It changes the words that come out of your mouth. It changes your texts, your emails. It changes content. And that attitude first is all about being a thought leader and a strategist to add value and to become influential. What I just said there, that needs to become a part of who you are, your DNA. It becomes how you do it. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite books ever, and one of the first John Maxwell books that I ever read was called Becoming a Person of Influence. I don't know, 97, 98, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit earlier. And it changed my life forever upon just how you interact with others. If you've never read that book, I'm telling you, you should go do it. It will be a game changer for you in how you approach people. Because here's the thing. I'd say a significant portion of those that are in this space, coaching, consulting, and so on, it's not that they're doing it wrong, but they're approaching it the same way we approach everything else, which is we're the ones picking up the phone, we're the ones sending the email, we're the ones knocking on the door, and so on. And you're going to have to do a bit of that, especially if you're new to coaching or you're just getting started. There's going to be a level of that for prayerfully obvious reasons that you would see that you got to develop those relationships. But when it first starts with your attitude, and I'm going to share it in a moment, how we're going to take the attitude and the thought and the heart behind this and making it practical and how we're actually interacting with others. But you can't do those strategies if you first don't strategically develop yourself as a thought leader, as a strategist. I'm going to add value to people, and I'm going to be influential. Doesn't matter where I live. It doesn't matter where I go. It doesn't matter how I interact. Like, those are bedrock foundational principles of who I am. And I'm telling you, when you work on that, that is by working on that, watching this video right now, you're working on that. Following the steps in this training, you're working on that. Reading books, watching or participating in master classes about, how to present yourself to be a value add type of thing. Okay. Again, it won't happen overnight, but if you're a believer, as I am, in the whole process of 1% gains, that means I'm just getting a little bit better every day, a little bit better every day, a little bit better every day. Too many people are looking for home runs, and I don't believe that they really exist. They may as outliers here or there, and they just kind of happen, but you cannot hope. Hope is not a strategy. 1% gains. You get 1% here, you get 5% here, you get 2% here. In weeks, months, and years over time, you're a different person, and you're significantly adding value and being valuable into the marketplace. I even like to call it marketplace ministry as a believer. Okay. So let me kind of bring this to some practical things. We're going to be a thought leader. And you might say, by the way, I don't consider myself a thought leader. Change your perspective, change your dynamic. You may feel like, but I have imposter syndrome. And we don't like to talk about that. It's a real thing. And I understand a lot of people, I've gone through it many times, actually way before I ever decided to create a podcast. I had those thoughts of like, well, will anyone care? What are they going to think? And I'll tell you, those are that type of thinking will sabotage your output. It will sabotage your results. Tell yourself that you're a leader. Tell yourself that you're a thought leader. Pray that God will help you be a strategist. Pray that God will show you ways to add value. Pray that God will put people in your path that you can influence for greater good. One of those ways to become the hunted, when we're a thought leader and we're a strategist, is our entire who we are becomes value add to everyone. Let me explain what I mean by that. When you look at things from a sales process, we're looking at everybody is that they're a prospect or they're not a prospect, okay? And no, we can't work for everyone. And no, there will be people that will not be a good fit, but follow along. When we look at everyone as a dollar sign or a prospect or whatever, it puts us in a position to eliminate conversations and interactions with those who may never become a client or aren't the right fit. But when we have the heart and an attitude to add value to everyone that I interact with, within reason, I believe that things shift because people see that you care. People know that you really mean what you say. People begin to sense your heart. And as a Christ follower and a believer, they certainly sense that there's something different versus they're just trying to sell business coaching services. If your prospects are seeing, feeling, hearing, just psychologically, that's the vibe that they're getting, not good. That's going to make it very difficult for you to have sustaining clients that are going to last a long time because it only looks like you're in it for yourself. Even though you may not be, it's just the way that it can come across when it's all said and done. So we want to add value to all. How does that look? What's that mean? Well, if I were to go to a business function of any kind, it could be a conference, it could be a networking event, who knows what it could be. But if I'm in person with folks, every hand that I shake, every conversation that I have, my goal is to add value. Here's why. People are magnetized. People are magnetized to those who are making investments. And when you're making investments into everyone, the people who do and who are the right fit and the prospects, they really bubble up and they really lean in, okay? Plus, those that you're making an investment and adding value to, we're going to talk about how that works in a second, they may become venture partners. In other words, that getting access to their network. They may not be the right type of client, but they could help you expand your network. And that is an important tool, an important strategy in building a long-lasting legacy as a coach and strategist, okay? So prayerfully you get this, the bedrock foundations of what we're talking about. So let me share with you a couple of practical ways of how this gets walked out. Let's say that I'm a coach and a strategist. I live here in Nashville, Tennessee. I am going to begin to build my network around those that I know here in my local area and begin to get to know others and finding prospects and clients that way. Well, to do that and to become the hunted, in other words, over time, it's reversed where they're contacting me. Here's a couple of different examples. Let's say that I do in person. Let's say that I do go to a networking event, okay? Now, remember, my attitude as a thought leader, my attitude as a strategist, I'm going to add value. I want to be influential. I'm walking in the doors with that persona. I've thought about that. I've processed that. I'm preparing myself. I've prayed about that so that those people that I interact with, they will see that out of me because that's really what I want to be. That's who I want to become. And I want that to be communicated. So I go to that event. I begin to connect with people. So here's where it changes. The mistake that a lot of people make is they begin to put their step forward, in other words, their mouth, and introducing themselves and talking about me, talking about what I do. That's a mistake. If you want to become the hunted, you first start that relationship and that handshake, if you will, about them. And it's everything. And when you're sincere, it will come across sincere. Tell me about yourself. So, what do you do? And I know that people hate that phrase, but when you're in a networking environment, that's exactly what you're supposed to ask. Tell me about yourself. What's going on? You own a business? Excuse me. And they begin to talk and you begin to ask questions. So let's say that I interacted with someone, a fairly decent HVAC company, right? They begin to talk. I'm going to start to ask questions of how long, what's things been like. One of my favorite questions, even still today, pre-pandemic, pre-2020, even though it's been 5 years, pre-2020 and post, what are the differences? Here's what you're doing. you're beginning to ask questions that they're talking about themselves. Everyone likes to talk about themselves, number one. Number two, you begin to ask questions that you learn about them. And then when you've asked 2 or 3 of those questions, you're going to lay in a question about strategy. Let me ask you, so when it comes to uniqueness in your business, what is your current market dominating position? In other words, how are you unique compared to your competitor? This is psychological. It begins to help them to think, one, about the actual issue, the strategy. They may be unique. They may not be unique. They may not even know. Doesn't matter. It begins to get them to think. Remember, our goal is to be a thought leader. We are beginning to lead them to think. This is where the practicality is at 101. And when you get them to think, guess what they see you as? Someone who is a guide, because you're guiding them to think. Now, I know that may to you just sound like, wait, that's too elementary. Usually the elementary is where most of the success is at, to be truthful. And in building relationships, this is where it's really at. So what happens is, as you start to do this everywhere, in all of your interactions, one, this is how you're communicating. This is how you're coming across to people. This is what they're getting from you. And it builds your persona, and people will begin to talk about you in this fashion. But let's go back to our example. We ask the question, we have some communication, and eventually what will happen is you're also leading them strategically for the typical question. So tell me about you. What do you do? That's the question that they're going to ask me. And guess what? Now I'm becoming the hunted, meaning they are asking. They are wanting to know, and it changes the dynamic, because when they ask, people are curious. That's the whole point, is the curiosity part, because if you never get them to that point, then they're never curious. They don't really want to learn. They don't really want to know, or at least they don't want to do it yet. So we want to lead them there every single time. So you never start off by introducing yourself only. You ask questions, you learn, you educate a little bit, and you ask about a strategy or two. And everybody's a little different. Sometimes I've had those conversations that go on for a very long time, and sometimes they're short, right? It's natural. It's real. And you want to let that happen. So your approach, here's your strategy, your approach, which is our thought leader, right? We're beginning to ask questions to get to know them. We ask a strategic question enough to where eventually they approach and ask us. See how that works? So in the same context, if I were to email somebody, let's say that someone connected me to somebody else, I'm going to reach out. Hey, my friend Steve here told me you own this HVAC business, and I'm just curious, how are things going? What's it like? And the same process continues to happen. When you have enough of those conversations over time, now if you're sitting in your office and you never get out and you don't talk to people, whatever, you can't become the hunted. But you will build reputation. That's where this is going. You will build, especially when you do it. If you're going to be local in your market, and you don't have to be, you can become the hunted in your circle, in your email list, in your local community. But if you're going to do it in your local community, people are going to begin to connect the dots. They're going to see you interacting this way. People will talk about you this way. And that's when it's going to shift. No doubt about it, over time, as you have clients and you're working with them in the same way and you're helping them to get results, they're going to tell their friends. Those friends will pick up the phone and call you, reach out to you in an organic way. And the more relationships you have, the more people are hunting you. It's just kind of the way it works, right? The last part about this, though, is a persona. You certainly now can extend this. And this is the part we didn't have that long ago. And that's doing what I'm doing right now, is educating through with content. It could be a podcast. It could be a video series on YouTube or whatever platform that you want to use, right? Speaking, huge way to build your prominence, to get to know a lot of people in a lot of ways. And doing that at your chamber, doing that in some capacity that shows that you are a thought leader. As a matter of fact, ironically, this morning when I was scrolling through a couple of the platforms, I noticed one of our coaches that are on our team in Florida. He and 2 other people, he's speaking. I'm not even sure about the event, but he's speaking at an event of some sort. just the optics. Now, I'm not there. I'm not talking to him, but the optics of that event on social media alone helps build his prominence. And when that happens multiple times, this is the beautiful part about social media, is that you get to do the event, but now the event can last for a long time through video, through images, and so on. All these activities will influence you as the hunted. But even if you had social media, even if you had a book, if you don't change your position as a thought leader, as a strategist, someone who adds value, and someone who's going to be influential to become a person of influence, if that's not your heart, becoming the hunted becomes much more difficult, okay? I hope this makes sense to you. One of the things that I would encourage you with, it goes back to what we said earlier about the 1% gains. Too many people want the microwave approach to success. They want to put their idea and their desire and their want in the microwave, put some minutes on it, open it up, get it out. Now, so here's success in my hand. I think we all know that it doesn't work that way. What does work is consistency. Every day doing something of active, not thinking about it. We got to do that too, but we have to take imperfect action. I talk about this all the time. Take imperfect action towards your goal with a strategy like this to become the hunted. And you'll be shocked what will happen in 90 days if you're consistent. You'll be shocked what will happen in 6 months if you're consistent. You'll be shocked what will be happening to you in beginning of 2026. 2025 already is 1 month down. We only have 11 to go. What are you going to do with it? Position yourself as a thought leader. Begin to interact with people where you add value, where you're asking great questions. Again, it might be over Zoom, on the phone, whatever. And over time, you're building that persona. Utilize content. Think about what would happen if you wrote a book or any kind of blog even. You don't have to go crazy. It doesn't have to take you a ton of time. The tools that are available today to create prominence, to create imagery, for your message to last is crazy. And it can be done with anyone. All right. Hope that makes sense to you. I hope that helps. Until next time, take care.